Hi, I'm Dr. Rajkumar Devani, and you are watching my first video on in the video series called "The Way I See It," and this video series presents my perspective on different issues and topics as we will discuss. Let's go forward. Okay, I'll start with a brief introduction. My name is Rajkumar Devani, and I've done my specialization in chemistry from University of Karachi, Pakistan. My interests are diverse, including green chemistry, sustainable lifestyles, environmental and natural solutions, analysis of toxic pollutants, eco-friendly polymers, and a lot more similar topics like these. Okay, now this is part one of uh, topic which includes evolution and evolutionary history and its implications. My co-author with me is Mrs. Nimala. Okay, I will start with a few highlights of what we're going to discuss in this presentation and talk. Okay, let's begin. There are several new developments in the areas of genetics, evolution, mutation, inheritance, etc., that we have witnessed recently. In evolutionary biology, now scientists are considering findings like niche construction, developmental plasticity, evolutionary development biology, non-genetic inheritance to formulate the more comprehensive approach called the extended evolutionary synthesis. Now, this is uh, the uh, the development which is based on the new findings in the fields I just mentioned. Now, what does it do? It allows us to revisit the existing theories with new dimension. We will discuss later on uh, in the further slides. Uh, a possible solution to evolutionary jigsaw puzzle may be presented in this talk. Okay, this discussion may provide us with clues leading to a better understanding of many of our health problems. Now, this is the key point. We are going to link up the evolutionary history with the current human state. Okay, now if we talk about the initial human obsessions, the the human history, if you talk about human history, what were the first obsessions of humans? They were definitely not biology or living organisms or plants. Uh, they were rather flying and construction of monuments, construction of abstract architecture. That was the few passions, the human passions in the earlier times. Because why they were not interested in, because biology was prevalent in the environment. Biology and organisms and natural living organisms were prevalent surrounding in all the environment, and they proved to be the initial the human needs in those days. Later on, when biologists and scientists felt the need to uh, to justify and to explore the presence of such marvels of nature. Okay, now when we talk about nature, uh, nature in itself is a very complex and uh, what we can say artistic in nature. If you see the different natural products, we see different natural plants, and animals, they are a masterpiece in their own class. Why? Because they have survived on the evolutionary history and their making. So it has taken a lot of time to reach those living things and those natural architectures in their current state. Maybe talk about DNA, the simplest of um biological forms. I would not say life forms, and they can't be considered as living, but yet they function like living organisms. And we also think about the complex organisms present in nature, and uh, and the ladder that connects uh, the biological evolutionary history to the current species is, of course, as depicted by scientists, is the DNA. Okay, now what is the difference between the natural phenomena, the natural way of modifying organic species, and turning them into living products? We can call them as living products, and those developed by humans. Now, when we say that the natural products are a masterpiece, the state of the art, why is that so? Because the natural products and nature itself, along with the ecosystems and the complex natural world and environment, they're all sustainable, self maintaining, and synchronized. Whereas, and surprisingly, many of the reactions and biochemical processes in the nature, they occur at physiological pH and physiological parameters, which is a very surprising thing. And the recent research is uh, based on the biological machinery that includes all the biological molecules and systems, and includes biochemistry. If we talk about chemical biology or biological chemistry, okay. Whereas if we talk about chemical synthesis or the synthesis that's performed by humans, it is performed at most of the reactions are non-spontaneous, and they are made to occur at high pressures or low pressures, either low pressures or high temperatures or very extremely low temperatures. It means that a lot of energy is put in to drive those chemical phenomena. And we make the products for our benefits, but they are most of them are not sustainable, and they're not assimilated and synchronized in the natural systems, causing the problems of pollution. Okay, uh, I think that for biological research, we may sometime need a different approach, a different scientific approach as compared to other disciplines of science. Why so? The probable reasons may be involvement of too many factors, hence the results may be misleading, because biological systems are complex. And when we talk about the traditional uh, disciplines, the traditional methodology that we use in other disciplines, what we do is we take one variable and make all other parameters constant to find out the results. Only uh, one is the independent variable and one is the dependent variable. So we interconnect them and we make conclusions. But such a case is not such a case cannot directly be applied to biological systems. Why? Because working on nature is state of the art to a very advanced level, as we've discussed through slides. The capabilities of natural systems. It's slow, but it works, and it works very, very well. Nothing as compared to what humans have achieved till date. Living organisms are complex and intelligent form of nature, In the race of survival, the smart adaptive systems of species may switch channels of delivering and sustaining change depending on the type of species, the strength of environmental stimulus, the age of the species or organism, level of adaptation with the existing environment, etc. So we see these are just a few factors that I have tried to highlight, whereas there could be many others. And surprisingly, what we have not comprehended till date is that the nature systems can be proactive, and the channels of natural mechanisms can change. Just and in our bodies, uh, the different chemical processes can be switched according to need. So that's why I think that traditional approaches in biological research may sometimes be misleading, as this has also been witnessed in earlier times. Okay, now as we said, as we discussed in the highlights, that we are going to revisit the evolutionary history, evolutionary theories in the light of the modern advancements. Let's talk about Darwin theory and Lamarck theory. The Darwin approach and the Lamarck approach. According to Darwin, evolution is by chance, which we accept to a certain extent. Whereas Lamarck theory says that a life evolutionary mechanism exists that works continuously. Well, this we'll see shortly that this statement or this argument is quite justified. Darwin says that changes occurred due to mutations and survival of the fittest species persisted through generations. Now, we know that mutation can cause changes, but if we owe the current biological systems purely to mutation, then that would not be correct. There might be other factors, as we are going to discuss, that also play a vital role in the evolutionary history. Another argument by Lamarck was that use and disuse of body parts can strengthen or weaken them accordingly. This argument was partially accepted because many of the modifications and biological species could be explained with this uh, theory, but there were serious arguments and counter arguments against this theory. Uh, uh, but now, as we have witnessed many examples, I'm just presenting two here. In example 1, dissolving of bones by losing mineral density at a rate of 1 to 1.5% per month when scientists travel into space and remain under zero gravity. Well, this is an astonishing discovery that the scientists traveling in space that who uh, experience zero gravity, their bone density starts to deprive at a surprising 1 to 1.5% rate. It means that the natural environment, the impact of natural environment is evident here. Similarly, in another example, we see Baba Amar Bharti, who kept his hand raised for 50 years. And what's the result? You can see in the picture, the fingers are, the bones have merged, and the joints have almost merged, bones have merged, and we can see that the blood flow is there, and that's why that's the result in the nail growth. But the fingers are due to the force of gravity, they are just hanging like uh, melted or joined bones. So that's the impact of disuse of that arm. So again, the Lamarck's predictions that use and disuse of organs can impact their future. Now we talk about a little about the, the science that supports evolution and how evolution is justified. We can see in the picture on the left side here. We can see that there are different embryonic stages of different species, comparing fish, turtle, chicken, pig, and human. Uh, so the branch of science is called evolutionary development biology, and by merging, um, it's informally called as Evo-Devo. Evo-Devo is a discipline of biological research that unites evolutionary and developmental biology to explain the evolutionary phenomena and evolutionary history, how which species are closer to each other. So it helped a lot in formulating and connecting different species. Okay, developments on evolution. Niche construction. What is niche construction? A niche is an organism's place in the natural world. It refers to how a species interacts with the living and non-living factors in its environment. So here the focus is on the interaction between species and the environment, which is a very important factor in the natural development of both the environment and the species, and they are closely connected. In the second part, we will be discussing this in detail. Okay, non-genetic inheritance (NGI). An individual's phenotype is determined by three factors: environmental exposures, individual genetics, and interaction of the two. Attained phenotypes could be transferred via reproduction and influence phenotypes through generations. Non-genetic inheritance is a considerably recent phenomena, and it complements and it supports the genetic phenomena. The basic makeup is provided by the genetic inheritance, whereas how that genetic makeup is going to develop and may be modified is is uh, is explained or is derived by the non-genetic inheritance, which is considerably recent advancement in evolutionary history, evolution science. Then we talk about developmental plasticity. Okay, developmental or phenotypic plasticity is the capacity of an organism to change its phenotype in response to the environment. Again, as we discussed in niche construction, the environment and the species are closely related. Okay. Next, we talk about inclusive inheritance. It is gradually accepted that there are numerous instruments leading to heredity apart from the basic DNA transfer, resemblance of offsprings to parents. And parents transfer a range of developmental assets that make the re-establishment of developmental niches possible. So the transfer of those assets from the parent to the offspring is very important. Okay, so all of these theories that we have discussed, they constitute the extended evolutionary synthesis, EES. EES conserves the foundations of the theory of evolution, emphasis on the involvement of productive processes in evolution and development, and common depictions of causation. It addresses niche construction, phenotypic plasticity, non-genetic inheritance, and evolutionary developmental biology, as we discussed just now. Okay, now what is the conclusion of all this talk? We must summarize. The summary is that the natural systems are complex, carefully developed over a very large time period. This is the reason why scientists care so much about the extinction of species and animals. Because if a species gets extinct, it means that the travel of that species through the time, through all this time, is wiped out. It's finished. And the species will take with it the complex mechanisms, the different types of biological materials, and the beauty of Earth with it. So it's utmost necessary to maintain the environment, the ecological balance, and the species surviving and living in that environment. Okay, the natural systems are smart and self-sustainable. As we just discussed, that the natural systems are self-sustainable um, since the beginning of time. The more recent research revitalizes Lamarck's theory. As I presented the two examples, they were according to what Lamarck says. And with the finding of non-genetic inheritance, that also uh, asserts Lamarck's theory. It suggests that transfer of traits has many role players apart from DNA only. There are many role players that decide how a species is going to change and develop. The modern developments may help in addressing some of our pressing health issues like cancer, diabetes, and heart diseases, etc. Why? Because when we complete the evolutionary jigsaw puzzle, we then conclude that the evolution is also working on us and affecting us. And if it's affecting us, then in what way? Positive or negative? And that we can determine through our current state comparing with our previous state. Ladies and gentlemen, I will conclude the talk here and we will discuss it further in the next part. Thank you.